Today is Saturday, October 21st, 2023. I am R.O. Smith, and I'm here with the Memory Project, LGBTQ History in Austin. Today we are chatting with Tom Doyal. Toby Johnson is going to be doing the interview. Here is Toby over here. Toby Johnson came to Austin in 1988, and he has been instrumental in the Memory Project and many other things. He took over Liberty Books from Tom Doyal, and that is part of what we're going to be talking about today, is Liberty Books and the gay culture of Austin that you two were instrumental in. Tom Doyal came to Austin in 1962, and he has had a fascinating life as an activist, an attorney, a bookstore owner, and that is the subject of today's interview. Toby Johnson, please begin.
Hi. Well, it was at Tom's invitation that my partner Kip and I came to Austin in 1988. So I see Tom as central to Austin's gay history, and in fact he was involved in so many things. As we were doing these oral histories for the Memory Project to record what life was like in Austin, gay life was like in Austin in the 80s, 90s, Tom is an important character, so we've come today to talk to Tom. Would you like to tell us a little bit about yourself, where you came from, how you came to be in Austin?
I came to Austin in 1962 to attend the university. I grew up in a small farm ranch community south of San Antonio, about 30 miles. And I'm the first member of my family to have a high school diploma, the first to attend college, the first to go to law school and become a lawyer, the first generation of my family on either side who never worked as a tenant farmer.
You made it.
I'm trash.
You also must be the first member of your family to be an openly gay activist?
Yes.
So you came to Austin for school?
Yes.
And then what happened?
Life happened. The first year I was in school, I was on scholastic probation each term. Then I dropped out and joined the Army for 4 years. And when I came back, I had matured enough that I was on the dean's list every term. I just figured out sort of how the world worked and got enough separation from my family and enough knowledge about the world to figure out how to navigate.
Did that include being gay?
No. They came even much later. I think I was so caught up in the quest to become the best little boy in the world, and you can't be the best little boy in the world if you're a faggot. So I didn't even get to that till later.
But most faggots do struggle to be the best little boy in the
Oh,
world.
yes. That's a common thing.
Mm-hmm.
I married a woman when I was in my early 20s. who was a very nice person, very smart. We were married 5 years. I married a woman a second time, and we were married 5 years. And the marriages weren't fake. I liked being married. And unlike some gay men, I enjoyed the sex. So I have a wider range of tastes than some people do. But I am gay.
And this is in the 60s, early 70s?
I married the first time in '68. I married the second time in '78. I'm not sure.
So when did you come out as gay?
Probably '83.
You want to tell us about that? Is there a story?
AIDS had started to show up on the coasts, East Coast and West Coast, and I knew I couldn't live anymore the way I had, which I was a closet queen.
Having gay sex,
Yes.
but not...
And not acknowledging that to myself or anybody else, really. For example, I met Troy Stokes in Peace Park. So,
Somewhere in our history, we must have the story of Troy Stokes, but
yes.
today we're talking about you.
Troy was important because he started a hotline out of I think of the University of Hawaii. He started a gay hotline. So, I don't know the story of that because I wasn't out and active, but there's a story there.
Those gay hotlines were important. I got
Yes.
my start as a gay activist working in a gay hotline
Right.
in San Francisco.
Right.
So by the time I met you in '88, you were partners with the gay doctor in town
Yes.
and had started the Liberty Books
Yes.
and Liberty Press.
Yes.
How did you get from one place to the next?
Rather quickly.
I didn't come out. I was like Quaker Puffed Oats, shot from a gun. Just kaboom. I had some money because I was a successful corporate attorney, which I was kissing that goodbye, and I miss it occasionally, especially the money. But I saw that bookstore in San Francisco, and I thought, I could do this in Austin.
This was the Oscar Wilde Bookshop
Yes.
on Market Street.
And I came back to Austin and found this space and built it out and ordered fixtures from North Carolina, and I mean first class all the way. We did the best we could to make it look right, and there was 18 feet of plate glass across the front. It was not painted black.
And next to the most popular restaurant in Austin,
Yes, yes,
Was that Castle Hill?
the Castle Hill
Yes.
Cafe. Which just a part of my story of Liberty Books is always that part of the gimmick of the Castle Hill Cafe was that they didn't have a waiting room inside, so people had to stand outside, which put them in front of our windows. So Liberty Books really became the face of the gay community.
yes. And that was all happenstance. We didn't plan that. Just the way it unfolded. I'd love to take credit for it, but
Oh,
no
was the
credit.
cafe there already, or you
No.
were there first?
I was there first, and then the cafe came. I've forgotten their name. The couple who ran it.
Michael and Carol.
I can't remember her name.
And who was the landlord? We should mention him because he's the one who built this big tall building in Austin.
Gary
Gary
Lorenz.
Lorenz became a major developer, and he really was supportive.
Yes, he was.
Yeah.
He was. There was a momentary contracture of the economy in Austin in, I think, '86.
Mm-hmm.
And I went to him and took the checkbook and the keys and said, I'm worried about making rent next month. And here's everything, and good luck. And he said, why don't we renegotiate the rent?
Mm.
And he discounted the rent deeply. And I agreed to clean the parking lot as part of my chipping in on general things. Service to the community.
So you were not only started the bookstore, you also started Liberty Press,
Yes.
and were going to become a book publisher. Became a book publisher.
I put
with a
out
number of
9 books. I published 9 books.
How did you think of yourself as a literary figure to take that on as well as bookseller?
Hubris. It had not to do with qualifications. I certainly didn't really have any.
And this was an important period in the development of the gay genre literature.
Yes.
Wasn't it? And
I opened Liberty Books on April 11th, 1986. AIDS had shown up, and I had a big 8x12 carpet-covered bulletin board, because there was at that moment no gay newspaper. There was a statewide gay rag in the bars called Twit, This Week in Texas. And but I had meetings and notices of meetings and anything of community interest that people wanted to post.
it really was the community center.
Right.
And for our viewers, let's remind everyone this is before the internet.
Yes.
This is before email.
Yes.
The only way to communicate with gay men and lesbians in the daytime, outside of a bar, was at your bookstore.
In Austin, yes. There was a small MCC where people could attend church on Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
One of the books I published was by the MCC minister. It was titled Things They Never Told You in Sunday School.
David Day,
Yes.
who's still around.
Yes.
Spell that name, please.
David Day, D-A-Y.
D-A-Y. Thank you.
And I republished Troy Perry's memoir, The Lord is My Shepherd and He Knows I'm Gay. That had been published back in the 70s, I think, by some small press. And he and the MCC fellowship out in Los Angeles couldn't get the rights back. They had lost the rights. And the people who held the rights didn't like him. I don't know the full story of that. But I swooped in and with a small handful of money got them.
Wow.
So suddenly I owned the rights. I had to rewrite the introduction to the book because it was horribly sexist. But I rewrote the introduction to the book and republished it and sold them all. I went to the MCC National Convention in Miami, Florida that year and sold every book I had. I'm sorry I didn't print 10 times that many.
So MCC has been one of the important institutions in the development of modern gay culture.
Yes,
And you were an important stepping stone in that.
yes. I met Troy Perry twice. A pulpit exhorter from southeast U.S., Georgia or Alabama someplace.
Bombastic.
Yes. And a leather daddy,
Yeah.
among other things, I'm sure. I didn't know him well, just a little bit. Sorry, I'm being carried away by the memory of all this stuff, and I'm trying to keep it together.
Isn't it amazing who you've been?
Yes.
Yeah.
Trying to
Well,
keep it
so the
together.
bookstore. I'd ask about the bookstore and your role, the bookstore's role in kind of creating
Yes.
a gay culture in Austin and a
Yes.
sense of community.
And we had chairs that people could sit in and read, and in the store, and
I remember the joke that it looked more like a Christian Science reading room than an X-rated bookstore.
yes, exactly.
Intentionally.
Exactly. That was what we were going for. I was trying to think of the other books that I published. I published a couple of lesbian novels that did all right. They did well.
A collection of short stories that had heat.
Gay
I had a
Gay
story
Men's
in there.
Erotica from the American Southwest.
I have a copy of that.
Yeah. There's a short story in there by a young man named Gerard Curry. I don't know where he is or if he's still alive. Called Shirtless Boys in Pickup Trucks. It was a great story. I think I had a story in there. Oh, Cruel Son-in-Law, which porn magazines would not publish because they said it was incest.
Oh.
You ain't from my culture. Who cares?
Did one of the characters from those days was the big homeless man,
Lars Einer,
Lars Einer.
who was nominated for a Pulitzer in '93 for his memoir Travels with Elizabeth, about living on the streets and being homeless, and he was nominated for a Pulitzer. He died in December of 2021. We were friends on Facebook. So
Did you publish anything of his? Or I remember that he
Yes.
was a friend of the store and
Yes.
received his mail at Liberty Books.
I published a book by him called Lavender Blue: How to Write and Sell Gay Men's Erotica, which after I went out of business was later republished by another small press, and they called it Elements of Arousal. And I don't know how it did, but it got published.
Well, so tell us a little about Liberty Books and the opening. I remember you have a good story about the Christian minister who.
There was a minister, now deceased,
Mark Wheat.
in town who had a group called Citizens Against Pornography. His name was Mark Weaver. And he came into Liberty Books about a week before we opened, just pushed the door open and said, "Is this a gay bookstore?" And I said, yes. And he said, I'm going to close you down. Okay. But the name Liberty Books was chosen by a lawyer. I saw this coming a long way off. I knew this was coming. And so I thought, we began, you know. And so that was the beginning of a long-running struggle, power struggle between me and Mark Weaver that ran for a couple of years. He brought the Vice Squad from APD, a detective named Earl Long, big guy, 6'4" or 5", weighed 300 pounds, huge guy. I mean, I would crane I was 6'2" in those days, and I would look up in his face. And one of the books that offended him most was Bayou Boy and Other Stories by Lars Einer.
Oh.
That had a Louisiana boy wearing a dog collar and shirtless on the cover. Published by Gay Sunshine Press in San Francisco. Winston Leyland, a former clergy, former Catholic clergy, and later gay publisher.
Major gay publisher. Gay Sunshine was a major newspaper.
Yes.
In those days in California.
Yes. But when Earl Long came on the premises of the bookstore, he said to Weaver, who was with him, "Mr. Weaver, you wait outside." And so Weaver couldn't come in the bookstore. And then Long talked to me, and I said, "Do you need to arrest me? I'd like to lock the cash register and lock the front door." And he said, "Oh no, I'm not going to arrest you. I'm going to do a report and submit it to a magistrate, and they'll decide if there needs to be anything done." I said, "Yes, sir." Because I had two younger brothers who were peace officers. I was not going to argue with a peace officer. And then Long said to me before he left the store, he went around and looked at everything. And I went around and told a few people who were in there, there were 3 or 4 in there. It was in the middle of an afternoon. And I said, "That's a police officer and he's doing a report. You may want to leave." And everyone left except me. And Mr. Long is gone too, dead. So Long said to me before he left, "Why don't you have your attorney write him a letter and ban him from the store, and that a certified letter, and that way you can have him arrested for trespassing if he comes back on the So I did. Tom Doyal, attorney at law. Weaver called me and said, "Are you really an attorney?" I said, "Mr. Weaver, the letter speaks for itself." Click. And he was in there at least one other time. I don't remember the details of it. I asked him to leave, he did.
Well, now you tell a story about the picketing, the opening.
Yes, when we did open, he had pickets along the sidewalk leading into the parking area. Said, "Got AIDS yet? Gay." And closed this smut peddler and the things you would expect. And the group that sponsored the picket didn't allow women to participate because it was just too horrible for women to know about this kind of thing. So it was male only. Write your own scenario about that.
What church was he affiliated with?
Well, I don't know.
It was an evangelical, weird denomination no one had ever heard of. Is that true?
Yes.
And sort of home ministry. I think part of what I remember is that he rescued street youth and actually had a kind of a good intention. And if that's what we're trying to rescue people from, that was a good thing to do.
Yeah.
But then tied into that was homosexuality is wrong, and that's what we have to rescue you from.
Yeah.
But you remember part of the story of Mark Weaver was that he was what we would now call a bear.
Yes.
In gay terminology.
Yes.
And you made the joke that his picketing brought more publicity than having a dancing bear.
If he hadn't picketed the store, I would have had to hire a dancing bear. But the picketing got wide coverage in the local paper and in the weekly, the Chronicle, and every place that printed anything. Those were still important outlets in that day. As R.O. says, before the internet.
So I remember one of the at some point a few years in, you invited Kip and me to purchase the store from you because you were so stretched so thin. You were an attorney with the Gay Rights Lobby.
Yes. I shared offices for a time with the Lesbian Gay Rights Lobby of Texas. I'm trying to think of who the directors were. It was right after Glenn Maxey had left the lobby and gone to serve in the legislature. Before Glenn ran for the legislature, have y'all interviewed him for your project?
We haven't yet, and he's clearly one of the people.
Because he's written about this and much better prepared than I am to give a coherent narrative and dates, and because he's done a lot of work on it. He talked to two people before he ran for the legislature. Ann Richards and me.
Thank you.
That's-
I assume you told him too.
Yes. Well, I told him I didn't think he'd win. But that we would never get anywhere until we put our own people forward. And he did win, which surprised me. So at that moment, there were two faggots in town, Glenn Maxey and his deputy, me. So.
Somewhere in here, you become a defendant in suing the state of Texas
Yes.
over the
Plaintiff.
2106.
I became a plaintiff. There were 5 plaintiffs. 2 from Dallas, 1 from Houston, and 2 from Austin. Me, and Pat Kramer, the late Pat Kramer. And our lawyer was Patrick Weissman, who was a civil rights attorney. Not gay, but a really good guy and very, very smart, good litigator, and now deceased. And we won in the trial court. We won in the Court of Appeals.
What was the case?
Morales v. State of Texas. And the Morales in this case was not Dan Morales, the Attorney General during part of this time, but a lesbianita from Uvalde named Linda Morales, and she was living in Houston at the time. And it was called the 2106 case, after the section of the Texas Penal Code that dealt with sodomy.
And she had lost a child in a divorce because of her sexuality. Is that true?
I can't remember that.
Okay.
I don't think so.
Okay.
There were,
I think that's Diane Hardy Garcia.
No, she was too young.
Oh, okay.
there were other people along the way who
Yeah.
made various.
But the basis of the suit was that 2106 was personally...
An unconstitutional invasion of privacy. That it was not constitutional under the Texas Constitution, because we'd already gotten an answer from the U.S. Constitution with a case out of Georgia, Bowers v. Hardwick, in '86. I didn't close the store on July 4th, 1986 because of Bowers v. Hardwick. Like it's conducted business like it was any other day. We weren't citizens.
Oh.
So,
So you were saying that you won at every level until?
we got to the Texas Supreme Court. And then along party lines, the court had been drifting to the Republican side after years of being Democratic majority. But there was one defection from the Democratic majority to the Republicans, a Catholic man named Raul Gonzalez, and he voted with them, and we lost. So we had the U.S. Supreme Court had spoken, and the Texas Supreme Court had spoken. Same issue. We had to wait 11 years for the case in front of the U.S. Supreme Court that finally struck down sodomy laws nationwide.
So you mentioned sodomy laws, so can I take us to another story?
Sure.
Which is that Doug Dyer, the creator of, or one of the creators of Esther's Follies, this kind of ongoing political comedy review in Austin, invited a group of gay activists to join in a musical review called I Pass for Straight.
I remember it.
And one of our big numbers was singing the text of the Texas Penal Code 2106 to the tune of Onward Christian Soul.
We meant to offend, and we did. And we did.
So, and you were one of the cast
Original
members of
cast,
2106.
yeah. I was.
So, you sell the bookstore to Toby and Kip.
Yes.
Toby and Kip take on the mantle of Gay culture in Austin. And what do you do?
I moved to Seattle
Okay.
for 10 months. For no reason other than I was tired and just out of a relationship and broke and exhausted. And I had enough money, I thought, to live for 6 months. And I got 10 out of it.
Okay.
And I lived in a small apartment about 2 blocks from a public library and read 250 books. It was a lovely period of time. And I liked Seattle, but to work there, I would have to get certified,
Join the bar.
and I would have to take a bar prep course, several $1,000s, study, take the bar, pass. So I came back to Austin to get a job, find work, where I knew people to ask.
And you continued doing school board law, is that right?
Not so much, because I had founded a law firm that represented about 250 mostly country school districts. Before I came out, I was the general counsel of the Texas Association of School Boards, which is one of the large 501c3 nonprofit. They're sometimes called lobbyists, but we were careful not to lobby. We were resource witnesses.
Oh, I see.
Yes. So, I had a reputation in that little world. Like, I went to Lubbock to Texas Tech to speak. The person at the podium ahead of me was H. Ross Perot. And then me. So I moved in a different circle. And I couldn't do that and be a faculty. That wouldn't work. So I didn't do schools anymore. I did some work where my name doesn't appear. I knew a lot of people who did work in that field, and I would do work for them and they put their name on it. So that's how I kept body and soul together.
But then you'd sort of become the gay community attorney.
I did.
And wills. You did our will.
Yes. Lots of estate planning stuff.
And talk about how important smart legal counsel was for gay men and lesbian couples prior to the ability to marry. Why did we need these powers of attorney? Why did we need airtight wills?
The closest a same-sex couple could get to marriage before the law changed was to create a set of documents that would set up what was essentially a faux marriage that you inherited from one another. You could make medical decisions for one another. You could make legal decisions for one another in certain circumstances. There was even a document called Appointment of Agent for Disposition of Bodily Remains, where one could bury the other one.
Right.
Because we had cases in which one partner would die and the birth family would steal the corpse and take them away to be buried in East Egypt, Texas.
Have a hellfire and brimstone funeral.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
So the only way around all of that was to carefully create a structure where that couldn't happen.
Right.
And even then, it was not easy.
To be able to visit our partners in the hospital,
Right,
we needed power of attorney.
yes.
Yeah.
So I did that kind of work for a long time. And there was a lot of it to be done. And then occasionally I would handle things that needed handling. For example, this came out of San Marcos. Two men had been having an affair. They were both married. One of them was married heterosexually and the other one was partnered to another same-sex person. The partnered guy told the married guy, if you leave, I'm telling your wife and your employer. And they came to see me late one Friday evening. So I got on the phone and called the other guy's lawyer. Said, here's what's going down. You need to tell him that we're on the alert. We're waiting for this to happen. And if it does, I'm coming. So we got that tamped down. Then the client I represented came to me and said, well, we might need continuing representation, but we can't have a gay attorney. Okay. I release you. I earned not one nickel.
Mm.
And that's just an example. That kind of thing happened actually quite a lot.
Yes, one of the aphorisms of the old days was that the gay community eats its leaders.
Yeah. Yeah. Those were the times.
Well, so another whole side of you was the writer and storyteller. You have a wonderful voice, stronger in those days than, because you went through a series of illnesses. You probably shouldn't tell us about too much of your illness, but do tell us a little bit of the struggle that you went through with health. But I want you to tell about the storytelling and the CD and Mahatma Gandhi was a son of a bitch.
Yeah. Those 3 CDs on top of that stack right there, I got one for each of you and then one for the archive.
Thank you.
And there are 7 of my short stories with me reading them. I would like that Smash Words version to come down.
Well, we'll talk about that off camera.
Okay. Because I have a new expanded version of it that I think may see the light of day some other way.
So you're still working on your writing and a novel.
The novel is finished and needs to be rewritten. I'm so tired of it, it's in a folder under my desk. But
Lots of people have books and folders on their desks, don't they?
it's like from 1939 to, I don't know, 88 or something. Somewhere along in there. 94. One man's life. I've won second prize in the Austin Short Story Competition twice. It sounds like a minor honor, but there's 600 or 800 entries every
Right.
year.
Yeah.
Austin's a writerly town, kind of closeted about it, but there are people out there. I was president of the Austin Writers League in 1999. The last year it was known as the Austin Writers League. It's now called the Writers League of Texas. Same organization. I became ill in late 99 and was ill for 18 years. And in 2 minutes you can edit out of this whatever you like. I've had 3 heart surgeries, cancer, a stroke, a rare autoimmune disorder, atrial fibrillation, anemia, chronic kidney disease, type 2 diabetes, and those are the highlights.
And never AIDS.
No,
And yet you live.
I'm alive. I'm present today and alive, sort of. And grateful.
Well, as we've talked, more and more levels of your life unfold, some of which I didn't know about. You've led a remarkable life.
I'm entertained and astounded by it.
Is there anything more that we haven't touched on that you'd like to record for posterity?
That I served on the board of the MCC, that I was legal director of the Texas Human Rights Foundation, which was a gay rights organization. I don't know if it still exists. I got a state district judge in Dallas publicly censured for homophobic remarks he made in to the newspapers.
What year?
Um,
What year was that? Approximately.
I think it was 89.
Okay.
He'd remarked that somebody deserved being murdered.
Slug, have their throat cut because they were gay. They were in the park, and gay people should expect to have their throat cut. And there were 2 men who had their throats cut by boys, young men, teenagers, who came in from the suburbs. Their parents were police officers, some of them, and they killed these 2 gay men.
Fag bashing.
Yes. Let's go roll some queers.
Yep.
Good fun. And that was an interesting experience. I can remember being in the courtroom in Dallas during the hearing where it was being decided what to do with this. I was the original complaint against the judge because a young woman journalist, I think from the Fort Worth Star-Telegram, told me about it before it came out, the day before it came out, and I was where the Fort Worth Star-Telegram was delivered here in Austin the next morning and got a copy of it And there it was on the front page. And I had my complaint filed before close of business that day. I was manager of a law firm at that time, working for other people. I took the day.
Well, a question that I have for both of you. It's now 2023. The kind of fag bashing that gets a judge censored doesn't happen now. Now, a different kind of cultural fag bashing happens on a different level. But the things that you fought for have come to pass. Gay men can marry. Gay men have protections. In most states, they even have job protections. Not in Texas yet. A bookstore, a gay bookstore, which was so vital to our community in the 80s, well, we don't have one anymore. Because we don't need one. Because gay literature is so pervasive in our culture. If you tried to have a gay bookstore, it would just be everything basically right now. People are out publicly. Even with all of these accomplishments that we have because of your advocacy and activism, how does it feel to be at this place in our culture, in our community, and not be terribly happy?
Well, I sort of am always focused on the next thing, the next barricade to kick down, and so this occasion, such as we're having this afternoon, of looking back and seeing that degree of progress. I don't do that very often. And I suppose I don't have a lot of experience with thinking of it in those terms. I'm looking for the next move forward. Yeah, but what have you done for me lately?
All right.
There is some satisfaction to be had.
Yeah.
And it's instructive and gratifying to take the moment to think about it in those ways. But until it doesn't matter, there's always something to be done.
Let me rephrase my question in a less decorous way. Was gay sex hotter when it was illegal?
Well, I was 50 years younger, so that may help you know what my answer is. Maybe.
Who would have ever thought that when you all had this bookstore, who would have ever thought that you would be legally married to Kip? You know, that seems like... I remember coming to your bookstore and buying those Phil Andros little novellas. Oh, they were so hot, steamy. And meeting you all, and I mean, you and Kip were my mentors in many ways, spiritually, relationship-wise.
Well, I think we met you at All Can Harry.
Okay. So, you know, it's amazing to me looking back, you know, oh, we can be, you know, we're legally wed now. We have all the protections that we used to have to work so hard to get with attorneys and documents.
be aware
Ah,
that the legal reasoning that granted to gay people the right to marry is the same legal reasoning that led to a constitutional right to abortion, which has been repealed.
exactly.
I'm not making a prediction, I'm just saying we're not secure.
Right. There's still plenty of people that hate us.
Yes.
And they hate us in a totally different way now.
Drag queens, please. Flip Wilson, Milton Berle. I mean, it's a long list.
I would say that we won. In many ways, we won the battle. The problem with winning is that you then just become normal. And part of what was special about gay life was that it was special. We were different, and we knew we were different. And we had to think about what that difference meant. When you take away the specialness about it, and I don't know how young people are growing up now, but I think that the kind of institutions like the bookstore and gay genre books, that rumination about what it meant to be homosexual was an important part of our psychological maturation. And that may be being lost.
Yeah.
The kids still have to go through a process of
course.
individuation
It's still traumatic.
and maturation, and there's still stuff that has to be thought about. But we don't quite have the gay community to provide those answers. So in some ways, I suspect it's harder. And it's more confusing now with gender shift, the shift to gender identity over sexual orientation adds a whole new level of questioning, and unfortunately sort of medicalizes homosexuality once again, because you need a doctor's prescription.
There you go.
We didn't need a prescription.
No,
You had a doctor though.
just needed to be pervy.
We're down to our final minutes. Lightning round of questions, comments.
I am keenly aware of things I gave up to be gay, but I would do it again.
Oh, I agree with that.
You're here. Well, thank you, gentlemen, for taking the time to sit down with us at the Memory Project and sharing your sage counsel with us, counselor. Thank you again.
I'm very proud to have known you. You changed my life.
Oh, thank you.